and he shoots it. He shoots it again. I wonder where that went, because that's terrifying. Howdy folks, you're watching DEUCE. Today we got a new series I'm going to start here called Guns Around the Net, where I bring up some interesting and funny things I found on the internet, and we discuss them as professionals in the industry. I don't think I need my headphones today because nothing that I'm going to be showing has audio in it. Today we're starting off with Gun Girl. Hi guys, I'm new here. No, you're not. You are definitely not, as stated by the very first person in the comments. Oh yeah, I've got my John Madden drawing scope here. As proof of the fakeness of the photo, someone went through and looked at all the different noise levels of the picture, and they have found a lot of stuff being chopped together in Photoshop or an analog of Photoshop to put together that image. Now, could this be a honey dick from the US government? Who knows? It could be also a China information gathering technique. Don't know, but it's bad juju. We do know that there is a ton of Wish style suppressors that are out there for sale, and those are being monitored by the government. So if you go onto the Wish website and you try to buy something here, like something like this, just don't do it. Don't do it. Go through your local FFL for any kind of firearms related items that are regulated by the government, because you will be known to the ATF in no time. You can't even buy massive amounts of oil filters or fuel filters online anymore without getting put on some list. Now this picture I thought just was cool. This is a Browning 1900, which this particular one, actually my face is in the way here. This was actually used to shoot Vladimir Lenin in Moscow. But this is a super cool, super interesting firearm, and I actually happen to have one myself, although it is a much worse for wear version. It's a N32 ACP. It uses a bottom magazine release. Of course, this is empty. What is really cool about this design is the fact that it has one big spring. You see, I can't lock back the slide, but you can see the barrel's on the bottom there, and the big spring is this housing up here. And that one spring moves the slide back and forth. That's the recoil spring. And because it's a striker fired, that one spring also is the striker spring. So it's all one spring up here, which I find very interesting. And of course, it has a loaded chamber indicator. You'll see when I pull the trigger, plop, it pops back up, telling you that it is unloaded now. Fascinating design for 1900. Okay, spent cartridge lands inside compensator. Wait, what was that? Okay, let's watch this in slow motion real quick. Okay, we got one round that goes out here. All right. One round goes straight up, straight into, whoa. And he shoots it. He shoots it again. I wonder where that went, because that's terrifying. Now let me show you my little setup here. I have toyed with a compensator. Now my compensator is not nearly as large as this dude's. The compensator that guy's using over here is a much larger opening in the top than mine. So I won't have a problem with that personally. And with the ammo I use, I did not find a compensator that useful. I do have an issue with Glocks and how they eject their brass on certain situations. Many years ago, when I was a very poor, poor is a state of mind, broke. When I was a broke person, still shooting in competitions because I had a little bit of money, I was using Accurate number 2 as my main reloading powder for my 9mm competition loads. I still got a little bit of this left. I ordered a bunch of 147 grain 9mm bullets, plated bullets to mirror the Berry's bullets. That used to be the only plated bullet around. I ordered those from Midway USA, I think, maybe Brownells, way back in the day. And they accidentally sent me 115 grain. And because they were so cheap back then, the company just told me to keep them, and they sent the correct order along. And so I, of course, loaded them. Now, I'm not going to tell you the powder charge I use over the internet, but it is the lightest charge of number 2 powder listed in the Lee manual for 115 grain ammo. So I showed up to competition with 200 rounds of this stuff, and I had just tested it for function only. I really hadn't tested it as an actual shooter. I just kind of gone into a barrel and shot it into the barrel to make sure it cycled the action, which it did perfectly fine. But during the competition, I found out that every single piece of brass was ejected straight into my glasses. Not on my forehead, not on top of my head, boom, straight right in the center or left to right. I even had a couple of shells go down and get stuck between my eye and the inside of my glasses. Not a great setup at all. I muscled through the rest of the day in competition with that ammo, which was god awful, but I made it through, and then the rest of the ammo I did load up just like I did before, but I only used it in my high point carbine. Iron sights break too. Yes, they do. They most certainly do, as you can see right there. Now, these aren't really iron sights. They are more than likely plastic from Magpul, which they're good sights. They're good sights. They're flip-up sights, and yeah, I guess how iron are the sights? Well, it does depend on that. Now, I have a Magpul sight here. It's a flip-up sight. These are a composite sight right there. It's a backup sight just like those. And I broke these as well. This is my second set. My first set I had mounted. Now, this is mounted on a 45-degree mount for reasons of an old video I never published. My first rear sight actually got broken just like this because it was mounted on my rifle, and my rifle was knocked off the shooting bench, and it ended up breaking just like this. So if you have a set of Magpul backups, this is something that can happen. Now, I did reach out to Magpul, and they replaced it, no questions asked, but it was a pretty new purchase. So if I broke this now after 10 years of ownership, would they replace it now? I have no idea. I'm not even sure if they make this version anymore. If this had been made of aluminum, would it have stood up to the impact? Probably not. I mean, you only have that tiny little bit of material there that holds the whole thing together under an impact load. Now, is that enough? Probably not, especially with either a polymer or an aluminum. If it were made out of steel, it would probably be okay, but it'd also be pretty heavy. So, got your trade-offs. The high point warranty is no joke, and this person is correct. They have a very old school 995 Classic. That's a 9mm carbine from way back in the day, and they sent it in for jamming. All that it was, just had a lot of worn parts, replaced all the worn parts, shoots great. Here's all the stuff they replaced right there. That's insane. They just went through and rebuilt the guy's gun for him probably 20 years after its manufacturing date, which is amazing, and probably added an extra mag on top of it. Usually they send you an extra mag when they repair your firearm. Now, just to tell you what gun we're talking about here, this is the one I have. This is the one you've seen on my channel many, many, many times. This is the tactical version, the 995 TS. This guy has the Classic, which is, let's see, let me see if I can blow this one up here. This guy. This is the Classic monkey gun. Now, they call this the monkey gun because it looks a little bit like the guns being used by the apes in the original 1970s Planet of the Apes. It really does. Look at the two together. But yeah, this is the old school, the old-fashioned 995 Classic. I would love to find one. They are hideous, but they work, and they work just as well as the new ones. If God didn't intend it to be, why does it fit so perfectly? I have no idea what they're talking about here. I'm assuming they're talking about this flashlight. So we will see. We have a whole bunch of different pictures here to look at. So there's a flashlight mounted on the side, a 45-degree angle, I guess, mount on a, I'm assuming, carbine. Oh, what in the heck is that? That looks... That's a hose clamp. That's a hose clamp. Oh, this is not going to be pretty at all. This looks janky as all get. Okay. That looks like a flashlight from Harbor Freight at best. And they've hose clamped it to, I'm assuming, a carbine of some sort. I guess it's a rear action. I guess there's a rear button here to turn it on and off, which would be about right. What is this? Oh, it's a Kel-Tec Sub 2000. I was just talking about a Sub 2000 in my last video. What does a peanut gallery have to say about this? Let's see. It got worse with every swipe. It really did. I do feel for the guy because I remember back in the day when I was younger, I needed to find a light to mount on one of my weapons, and I could not afford it because there was not many options out there that for something that was specifically made to be mounted on a firearm. There was basically no option or an expensive option. There was not a cheap Chinese version of these expensive options out there. This is before Amazon. So I did something very similar to this back in the day. I had not this particular flashlight, but another flashlight with a little bit bigger in size. I think it was like a C-cell battery flashlight. This was before 18650s even existed. And it just so happened to fit inside an inch scope ring, and that fit onto the side of my rifle. Now, this was right after the assault weapons ban ended in 2002 or whenever that was. It was right after that. So that was the only way I could afford a weapons light, because I could not afford a stream light or something of that nature. That was not in the cards for me at the time. Nowadays, there's all kinds of options for you. I have this Olight on here that is it's a budget one, and it is bright enough. It is fine enough. It is rugged enough. Is it something I would go to Fallujah with? No, of course not. But for home defense situations that on a budget, perfectly fine. I've got this one here from Through Night, and this was really good here. This is remote switch and everything, and it was not that expensive. This next submission is a short little video, I guess a YouTube short maybe, on reloading 30-06 for a M1 Garand, which is very economical because M1 Garand specific ammo is much more expensive than normal 30-06. Usually, every now and then you can find a good deal on it, but normally it's more expensive because you can't shoot normal 30-06 through an M1 Garand, or you're not supposed to, because it can bend the operation rod and all that good stuff. It's not good for it. So you definitely want something that's made for M1 Garands, and the cheapest way to do that is to make it. Now, first off, before we even start the video, I can tell you right now that he's using a dry media tumbler to clean the brass. That has gone out of style a long time ago because there's a lot of lead contamination that gets in the air. I mean, it just basically shoots out of there. If you look at my previous video, you will see a bunch of clean brass behind me, and that's basically in preparation of a video I'm putting together right now on how to clean brass without endangering your health. All right, resizing, and usually that pushes out the primer as well. Then you stick the primer in, that's exactly the way you do it right there. And we got some powder there. There's many options for different charges of powder for the M1 Garand. Whatever you got locally, you can find a charge for it usually if it's a 30 caliber option. We got projectiles here. I'm not sure what he's using there. But yeah, you basically put that sucker in there, and he's using all Lee components. That is the factory, the crimping of cases. That's the factory crimp that Lee Precision is very known for, and they work really well. So I highly recommend the Lee factory crimp die if you are going to be loading rifle ammunition. And I have a box just like that down in my bunker. Actually, I have several of these boxes down in my bunker. This person is very well organized. So not only does he have all of his ammo all packaged up, he also has the load data in the back there in the top, which it has a little section there you can kind of shove an index card. I use index cards, and it works great, and it just shoves right in there and just stays put for the most part. Normally, as I'm shooting my rounds, I'm putting the empty brass right back in here, and once this is almost empty, that's time to go back and clean some more, and that's what I do. That is it for today's Guns Around the Net. If you like this series or want to see more of this series, hit me a like, let me know in the comments down below so I do keep on making these, because I do enjoy making stuff like this. As always, you guys have a great day. See ya.